Ugh, good morning. It's 3:45 and I'm up before the coffee, catching my flight down the eastern seaboard to Maryland for the 39th annual Maryland Sheep and Wool Festival. The festival takes place in West Friendship, Maryland, just west of Baltimore, where you still have rolling farmland. But on Saturday morning, when the festival begins, the crowds arrive. I arrived an hour before the festival began to help my friend Jennifer set up her Spirit Trail Fiberworks booth, and already the parking lot was starting to fill. Over at the Spirit Trail booth, Jen, as usual, had something new to present. It's called Brigantia, 85% Polwarth and 15% silk. Utterly delicious. For the rest of the people who get into the fairgrounds through the main gate, they were greeted by such bizarre sights as these compelling upside down legs and row after row of barns filled with every possible fibery temptation that you could imagine. You've got yarn, fiber, roving, you've got knives, jewelry, spinning wheels, everything that you can imagine. The fiber optic booth was particularly crowded, had a lot of gorgeous samples, but it also had gradient kits. Now, these are kits for hand spinners that allow you to spin your yarn so that it slowly changes colors. The verdant griffin was there, one half of the now split up sanguine griffin. She was doing swift business, pardon the pun, ha ha ha. And down the way was Still River Mill, the Connecticut fiber processor. She had a fun sock yarn that contains 15% samoyed, along with some merino and some nylon. Across the way was Into the World. She had some very interesting hand-dyed, self-repeating sock yarns, as well as some solids, new vendor there. Then, if you went back outside and walked down, 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 down past the ice cream cones by the sheepdog trials, you would get to Mother-Daughter Team. Marigold Jen is the mother. That's her yarn that you're looking at. Jenny Porter, Marigold Jen on Etsy. And her daughter dyes fibers, these beautiful fibers, and she is Hobbledehoy. New vendors, lovely to see. Nitty pots, they were getting a lot of interest. These are sewn kind of rag style bowls to hold your yarn. The cool thing is that they have a magnetic strap closure. Back up the hill, we had Jenny the Potter. Jenny the Potter, she was joined by her family, her adorable little baby, and the ever able Amy Dachin. Wonderful to go in there. And across the way, Julia Hilbrandt, one of my favorite felted bag makers, normally at Rhinebeck. She found out at the very last minute that there was room for her, so she was a very welcome addition. Another neat thing about the festival is that you've got things like plants and handmade furniture. And one of my favorite festival sites is this man here who makes brooms. I would have to say the button of the festival went to Bijou Basin. We'll trade teenager for yak yarn. And then on a completely selfish note, I have to say it makes me very happy to see my books in the wild. Speaking of in the wild, this is a sheep and wool festival, which means that sheep are plentiful. On this grassy slope outside the main barn, children love to roll down that grassy hill, by the way. People were gathered to watch a master sheep shearer do his stuff. Ballet in motion. Absolutely stunning. And everywhere that you'd look, you'd have to step out of the way as people were moving beautifully groomed sheep back and forth from the barns into the show ring. That is what makes this show so unique from the other major sheep and wool festivals out there, in my opinion, is that the agricultural roots are very, very clear here. The sheep breeders matter as much as the yarn purchasers, which only makes sense because they are making what we love to consume. But you get to go into these barns and see these animals, see the different breeds for yourself, touch their fleece, talk to the animals. Everybody goes in there. They start talking back to the animals. You hear human imitations of sheep no matter where you go. And clearly, for a lot of people, it's their first time of really interacting with an animal that has provided the fiber that they so love to use. And I think that it changes you a little bit. But the other thing about this show is that you get to see some really good animals because the sheep breeders come here to see, to be seen, and to be judged by their peers. And that is another cool thing, is to go into the show ring and watch the sheep being judged, to hear what the criteria are, and of course to check out the fashion displays of the Wrangler jeans. This guy cracked me up because he was so distracted with not even one but two phones, but everybody else was having a good time. Now, food is a major theme at the Maryland Sheep and Wool Festival. If you are a vegetarian, I would recommend bringing your own vegetables or getting used to such things as the potato. French fries, fried dough, hot dogs, cheese fries. Heart attack on a plate, I like to call this. It was actually quite delicious. Or when in doubt, go for the corn dog because nobody else seemed to want to. And of course, you wash it down with a nice big bottle of sugar water. For dessert, what could be better than ice cream? I'm not quite sure how much actual dairy product is in there, but what happens at the festival stays at the festival, right? Something I really enjoyed this year was a much greater community sense at this event. Usually, you used to have a picnic outside the fairgrounds. A couple people would be setting up a blanket or a chair. This year, we really took over the fairgrounds. However, on Saturday afternoon, things cleared out unusually early, probably because some big clouds came overhead and it looked like it was going to rain, which it never did. But by Sunday morning, things cleared up and we were ready for the final day of the festival and the big new thing, which was a book signing right inside the main gate. Merritt Bookstore. These are the folks from New York who do the book signing for the New York State Sheep and Wool Festival at Rhinebeck. They have such a good time there that they decided to come on down and do it at Maryland. For me, this was a really gratifying way to see the people who are reading what I write and also to see my books in the wild. But all too soon, tick tock, the clock forced me to get back in my rental car, leave the fairgrounds, and head back to the airport for home. The festival is always the first full weekend in May, and you can expect more reporting in 2013. Funny enough, I got all the way back to Dulles and I was refueling my car. I looked down on the pavement, and what do I see but this little bit of yarn? Knitters. We are everywhere.